Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek podcast.
Chris, what the hell was that?
Playing a hunch.
You're risking an alliance that could be the key to the Federation's future security on a hunch?
It's a good hunch.
Chris.
The Rongovians were rude to the Tellarites, reasonable with us, and deeply logical when talking to a Vulcan.
So, you're saying they copy anyone they come into contact with?
Yeah, that's what I thought at first. And then it occurred to me, what if this was a diplomatic technique? They responded positively when I took Spock's side, even though it was in direct violation of what they'd asked. Maybe they're just looking for somebody to take their point of view. Radical empathy. Maybe what they value the most in others is the capacity to see things their way.
They're flying our flag.
Looks like we have a new ally.
Hell of a job, Chris.
Wait, so it's okay to eat Nutella by itself, but not peanut butter?
No. It's fine, Dan. It's fine that you eat peanut butter by the spoonful.
No, but I'm not feeling insecure. I'm wondering what Jesse's point of view is on this one.
Okay, I understand.
What was the question?
Okay, so to recap, Dan, you said you ate peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Not peanut butter. You ate peanut butter by the spoonful, and Jesse reacted negatively to that.
But then he made the absurd assertion that I should instead eat Nutella by the spoonful.
Okay.
If you're gonna eat peanut butter by the spoonful, why not just eat Nutella by the spoonful? And I was like, what does that have to do with anything?
See, I would personally prefer to eat Nutella by the spoonful. In fact, I do.
No.
In fact, I get in trouble
look,
all the time for doing it.
No, I understand, but I mean, my point with Jesse, and it's fine, and I was just curious what was coming out of Jesse's mind when he said, peanut butter, I don't eat peanut butter by the spoonful. That's absurd. You should eat Nutella by the spoonful. And I was like, I didn't understand why it was absolutely stupid, ridiculous to eat peanut butter by the spoonful.
I was just being a character.
He was acting as his attorney. He was simply
I know you are.
He was providing an alternative that was more palatable to him personally.
I think I'm asking Jesse the questions here.
What about a spoonful of honey?
That has nothing to do with what we're talking.
Okay, let's start the podcast.
These are all things that come in jars.
But
start the podcast.
Okay, that's fine. But why is it absurd to eat a spoonful of peanut butter?
So I'm back. This is Patrick. I've returned.
Why stirring the pot, man?
I've returned.
This
my job to push. I'm pushing the buttons. I got the timer going.
It moves quicker.
He's the master pro.
It moves quicker if you let him answer the questions I'm asking him, as opposed to, because it's not appeasing me when you answer the question.
Appeasement is not the goal here.
What's the goal?
The goal is to do the podcast.
I know, and it would have gone quicker if I just was allowed to have a conversation with Jesse. We would have been done with this 5 minutes ago.
I'm not convinced that any answer he can provide will satisfy you.
I just wanted unanswered because I didn't even get an answer.
All right, Jesse, can you just give him
No, it's fine.
an
It's
answer?
over. It's over.
Okay.
It's over. I don't want to.
Okay.
I was just messing with him and being a character.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Saying absurd stuff like peanut butter.
Well, I was too.
Welcome,
I was too, Jesse. I was being silly.
You see,
welcome to the It's
this
Got
is
Star
what
Trek.
happens.
Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. Got a bunch of characters here. You're full of characters here. This is what you can expect.
Like Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, we have a bunch of characters here.
Master
Right.
pro.
So,
My master pro.
first bits of business. First bits of business is thank you very much, Jesse and Dan, for holding down the fort last week when I was out of town and unavailable. I thought you guys did an excellent job on the podcast.
Why were was the
thanks.
fort trying to get away from it? Why were we trying to hold it down?
You have to keep
stand-
it from moving.
Stand on the fringes. so it doesn't blow away. The only critique I have,
Well, I guess that makes sense.
the only critique I have was that you kept referring like last week's episode was episode 134 of the podcast.
Right.
This is episode 135. Episode 134 was last week.
Yeah, we've got that totally wrong. I said it was 35 at first.
I
which is
really
crazy.
I haven't been keeping track.
So
for
last week you said,
several.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. You did say 35. All right.
But then Jesse corrected me to 135.
I didn't
and
correct
then-
you. Shit, I just went along with it because I didn't know what. The
No,
hell
but you
was
said
going on.
you were like maybe 135. That's what you said at one point.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So
I was guessing.
it's down on
Well, I mean,
tape.
I'm not trying to say you need to take responsibility for anything. It's not.
I'm not taking
I'm just
responsibility
saying.
for anything.
I'm just saying the numbers 35 and 135 got thrown around.
I'm generally not an advocate for anybody taking responsibility for anything.
Okay, fair
Generally
enough.
speaking. Okay, but
All right.
so great job last week. This
Thanks.
week,
I
last
take
week,
responsibility for that.
super intense episode last week.
Yeah, it was really good.
This week, we're talking about Spock Amok.
Spock
Amok.
Spock Amok.
Spock got on my
Amok.
nerves.
Amok.
He was
Spock
running
Amok.
me amok.
Yes, like Wesley Willis. Look up Wesley Willis if you want to
Yeah.
hear some groovy tunes.
I thought last week's episode was awesome. I was really into it in a big way. I thought it was great. I think that
This is a much lighter episode.
yeah, it was a good tonal shift.
Yeah.
it's a farce as they call it.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
it was a
yeah,
bit. It was a
yeah.
bit of a farce.
And
It
because
was the old
farcical element.
switcheroo. It was
Right.
the classic
the old turnabout
the
intruder.
old face switcheroo.
you know, I will say like when they did the mind swap or body swap or however you want
The
to call
Vulcan
it.
soul bind, soul switcher.
Right.
I'm
Soul
forgetting.
sharing.
Soul sharing.
So I'm gonna
soul
be
sharing.
not that I make it a habit of lying to people, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
Wait a second. Do you make it a habit of lying to people?
No, I don't, Patrick. That's
Oh,
what
you're saying that you don't make a habit of it.
But-
you do it sometimes, but not habitually.
What
Not this time.
the point is I'm about to say to be honest with you, and that would imply that I'm not being honest with you. It's just
yes.
a turn of phrase or whatever.
It's an important clarification.
At first, when I saw the body swap, body swap,
hey,
get the body swap,
get your body swapped
get
down
the
here.
body swab, get the creeps. So at first, I was thinking, oh no, I don't know about this. I don't know about this at all. You know, I was thinking, like, is this gonna be a Freaky Friday thing? And I keep making these,
It is.
and I feel like I keep wondering, trying to get ahead of time. I'm like, oh, what are they going with this? Where I don't know where they're going with this. Oh no, am I gonna like it? Am I not gonna like it? And it's like, but they've been so far. Stranger Worlds has kept like pleasantly surprising me because
Strong.
yeah, because
Strong. Each episode has different
'Cause-
strengths, but they're all strong.
right. So after about 5 minutes of the Freaky Friday situation, when I was like, I don't know how I feel about them doing one of these things, but I was like, I'm totally entertained, and I don't care. It's like, why am I gonna try to like be like, well, I'm so smart that I've seen this before.
You're
This
gonna
is
go
the
along
old
with
hat.
along for the ride.
Yeah, and so I sort of let go of that, and I enjoyed it. And then I was surprised because the whole episode, it wasn't. I know that was a big portion of the episode in the sense that it sort of helped realize the thematic elements of the episode, and you know that's what they used.
It was like when Lucy and Ricky had to switch, and they were all like, "You could never do what I do," and then they switch places and they do each other's jobs.
It was
And
a
they're like,
Lucy
your
style episode.
Your job's a lot harder than I thought.
yeah, right. But usually those episodes focus more on the swapping thing. Usually more of those episodes more focus on the minutia of the swapping, like every day-to-day little thing. And I feel like
Ricky Ricardo wearing a feminine apron,
yeah, sure.
for example.
Yeah. So this show is about 50 minutes.
It's all ruffly.
So this show was
lace.
This show being about 50 minutes long. It actually surprisingly didn't linger on it too much. They only really used it for one purpose, and it was a part of a greater whole. It wasn't the whole end. It wasn't like this is the only device we're using.
This is a DF5.
This it wasn't like this is the
Sorry,
only.
you said the word "this."
Yes.
Prompted that statement.
The use of the body swap, I'm saying, was only one of many things, one of several things they did in the episode. It wasn't the sole focus of the episode. And
Yeah.
and I thought, and I honestly I didn't mind it. I
They
don't
also
know.
did some like lower decks kind of thing.
I don't. Might seem like it's kind of like, oh, this has been done before, but I don't know. I was okay
But
with
you're
it.
saying you enjoyed the episode.
I did enjoy the episode because it
It
was.
seems like you may have liked the episode.
I did because so the episode it's presented you know what you're getting into with this episode, with the music being all fun and doodly snoodly.
Yeah.
And, that was kind of funny, though, because it's like, what, did Spock have a dream about, like, being in that episode?
I knew immediately it was a dream, and then when the music kicks in.
Well, right. That's why it was weird, because it's like, so I guess in Spock's dream, he's dreaming that he was back in that Time Amok episode.
Which hasn't happened yet. Because
hasn't
that
happened
actually
yet,
happens
so-
like 7 years in the
So
future.
not only is he looking into the future of the episodes, he's like listening to the same music that the audience listens to.
okay. So let's.
I just wanted to say that the episode from the start was presenting itself as fun, farcical, all that stuff. You know what you're getting into, and given that, I thought it was really. I really thought it was great.
And then it sneaks in a little,
then there's
a little deeper stuff.
Yeah, there's some
along the
touching
way.
drama,
Some touching, interesting stuff.
So I was into it. I don't know if people thought it was cheesy or what.
Including some discussion about the issues faced by people who identify as multiracial.
Oh yeah, right, with Spock.
Yeah, with
Right.
Spock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Has there been any talk on the internet of people not liking the episode or anything?
Nah, everyone seems to like Strange New Worlds, which is great. I really love Strange New Worlds too. I do get aggravated sometimes when a lot of the praise for Strange New Worlds is in the context of how shitty the rest of Star Trek
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
Again, what's great about this era is they're making different flavors of Star Trek. And you can like all of them if you want. You can like one out and hate the rest, or what. That's all good.
or you can be like those people that hate it all.
Yes, that's where it gets aggravating.
Well,
Yeah.
and you think about there's silly episodes of TOS and TNG, and then there's even this the DS9. There's when they play the baseball game, and then there's of course a Move Along Home. But it doesn't. But those are fun. It's fun to look at those episodes and be like, those were absurd. And like, I don't even know if I would even want to watch them again. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't make
DS9
me.
also has the Trials and Tribulations. It has looking for Parmach in all the wrong places, like the magnificent Ferengi.
And it doesn't make me mad at the whole series to remember those episodes.
And it's a key component of
Right.
Star Trek to have whimsical, silly episodes. And that is something that has been somewhat lacking in Discovery and Picard, but not entirely, because Discovery has that great episode we covered, I think, Madness to make King George go silly. What was that episode called? The madness to make the
sanest man.
sanest man go goofy.
sanest man go goofy.
And then Picard has that whole business on that planet with the quarks, and where he dresses up with he has a stupid French accent. And,
I
think
when they go all super flying.
I think that pissed a lot of people off, though. Like,
well, my point is that they were trying to do the silly thing too. And,
Okay, yeah.
And I enjoyed that
We're not
episode.
gonna talk about
You can
those people.
debate
Yeah.
how
no,
well
I
it was
didn't.
pulled
I
off.
didn't. It didn't make me mad.
But otherwise,
I ain't mad
those
at you.
shows are telling long, serious, dramatic arcs dealing with emotion and PTSD and mental trauma.
Yeah, there's a lot of trauma, a lot of drama.
So there's a lot of great. It's like it's fun watching SVU. That's a great show. Law and Order SVU, great show.
I've never gotten into Law and Order.
Well, the point is, it's a quality show, but it's not. You can watch other shows,
Right.
And in Star Trek, we can have different flavors in the same
you
universe.
can laugh every now and then.
Lower Decks is all about, like, they're always trying to be funny, which I love. Lower Decks, I think, has the strongest first season of Star Trek thus far, although Stranger Things is coming up close behind it. But what Stranger Things has...
Stranger Things.
Why do I keep
Does it 'cause the new
New
season?
Strange New Worlds.
It just came a new
it's because
season,
it's in my brain. Stranger Things, but Strange New Worlds, what it has is it can do all the flavors. It can do the horror. It can do the adventure. It can do the comedy. It can do the high-minded meta, political stuff or whatever. Like TNG, like TOS, like Deep Space Nine. It can move around in the sandbox a little bit.
And it's nice that the events are not all these great galactically dire events. It's
Galactically dire.
I mean, so the Gorn episode last week was some serious shit. Obviously,
but it wasn't like it was like the ship might be blown
yeah,
up.
it's not
That's
the
it.
universe is going to
It didn't
implode
affect
or
like
something.
the whole.
Yeah, and then this was, this had, an important thing about, like this trade route or territory, so we don't, it's all about allies and stuff, just standard kind of stuff. It's
The beta
But it
quadrant.
wasn't.
It's
It
important,
wasn't in
but-
the universe. It was,
and-
hey, maybe we can save a little wastage of people.
right, and it's kind of like when you watch any of the the Hawkeye, Luke Cage,
Jessica Jones.
Is that what it is? Jessica Jones?
Yeah.
Is that the Marvel?
Yes. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, she's from
You mean because they're just helping out like New York, like a borough of New York?
Yeah, Jessica Jones with Kristen Ritter, who was also in that bitch from that movie. No, that show. This show is called.
What?
That show is called.
Say what now?
It's from that bitch in 20. No, the show is called that bitch from Room 22.
I don't know. I think they had put an asterisk. You should have pronounced the asterisk.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Jessica Jones drinks a lot and wears like jeans and a jacket, and she's all badass.
Yeah, right. So, and it's because whereas the Avengers is all this crazy galactic shit, and it's not a perfect comparison and it kind of falls apart in a lot of ways, but the point being is it's easier to relate to that, stuff like that. And not that the big grand stuff is bad. I'm just saying it's a nice change of pace to get these sort of really fun yet, serious episodes that talk about serious stuff, but that still maintains an aspect of adventure and fun,
Serious.
That's really
Very serious.
Hey, Jesse.
Very serious.
Hey, Jesse, why are you so serious all the time?
Because it's Star Trek.
So,
all right. I think what we should cover. Well, first, let's discuss the opening teaser, which we already touched on before. Spock's.
Some might call it a cold open.
The cold open, the teaser. I think those are both interchangeable, relatively synonymous terms. I think it was pretty clear it was a dream Spock was having almost immediately.
Right.
But the attention to detail in terms of setting it up, it's a modernized version, but it really does look a lot like the Amok Time Spock stuff or stuff you've seen in like a
Amok Time.
Yeah, well there's also
Amok. He's running me amok.
Another reference to Wesley Willis, a famous Chicago musician. Look him up. Listen to all his music.
I've mentioned this before. I like their backgrounds. I know that it's like a lot of CG stuff and whatever, but it somehow reminds me more of the matte paintings of the older. Even though it's a different art style, it still reminds me of that somehow.
That scene at the end where with the Enterprise in the dock when they're in the conference room with with windows and you can see the Enterprise just looming in the background. That was tight.
Yeah.
The Vulcan setup was simultaneously 4K, modern, super well produced.
I like the colors. I love the colors in this show.
The props, the film, and the cinematography, all of it hyper modern and excellent, but at the same time felt like a TOS set. They were walking along like a flat sandy surface. There was a little fireplace there. Those props looked really good, but they still looked very Star Trek-y, like those
bells,
those shaky bell things, which are identical to what you see in the Amok Time.
Yeah,
and it just had that vibe. The costumes were modernized costumes, but they looked like fucking Vulcan costumes.
Right,
they're talking in some Vulcan gibberish,
and they've established this sort of imagery for Vulcan that I don't remember in the past, but everything is so on such a grand scale. Like when they go into those towers, and that happened in Discovery with Stamets, and then again with Spock and T'Pring. Jesus. Okay. T'Pring. God damn it.
T'Pring. That's right.
Yeah.
Shit.
Anyways, but when they're on these buildings that are all like, it's like, where the fuck are they? They look like
they're a planet with nothing on it.
They look like they're hundreds of feet above the ground, which is awesome. But then at the beginning, when they're walking, they're going towards when Spock's having the dream.
It's got nothing on it.
I know it's a dream, but you can assume that it's probably based upon his memories.
Yeah, it's just like that's what it looks like.
But it's this big. Isn't there like some big old bridge or something?
It's a Lord of the Rings style. It's a Kazakh Doom style, like crazy ass bridge with no railings.
Yeah, everything's huge and grand scale and it's
hellish and red.
It's pretty tight.
Lava.
It is tight.
There's all that lava.
We discussed the music in that scene, looking awesome. But the other thing is just how well done this little psychological battle with himself was, because the way Ethan Peck portrayed Spock as both fully human and fully Vulcan was fantastic, because fully Vulcan Spock was like extra Vulcan assholey seeming, and fully human he was like opening his eyes all wide and his face looked completely different. Like, and then when he got hit with the business, with the name of the weapon that I always forget,
it's spelled like Lirpa, but Ortegas was pronouncing it like Lipa or something. I don't know. But
when he gets hit with it, he bleeds red blood, because that's the human side.
I didn't
of
even
it.
notice that.
Like a big squirt of red blood just splurts out.
I mean, I'm sure I saw. Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't
Spock's
remember
got
that.
green blood.
Who do you think would win in a fight? A Klingon with a Lirpa or a Vulcan with a batleth?
That's a good hypothetical question.
There's no way to know. There's just
but
no,
we can assert
enough.
that we know what will happen.
Well, aren't Vulcans super strong? Are Klingons as strong as Vulcans?
I bet Vulcans are stronger than Klingons, but Klingons are, they got their moves. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
What about a Ferengi with a bat'leth?
With a electro whip. Don't they have electro whips?
Yeah, but if they were using somebody else.
I don't think a Ferengi with a bat'leth.
We see a Ferengi with a bat'leth in that House of Quark episode.
Maybe
of Deep Space Nine.
Maybe if you were Rom, you might be able to pull it off.
But Rom's got this shit.
I don't think Quark is going to be able to pull that shit off.
Quack, 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 quack. Yes, so that scene I thought just was obviously a dream, of course, but it said a lot in that brief moment, and it was fun because of the music and the fighting and the
fighting was cool. I liked the fighting. The
fighting was TOS style fighting.
Yeah, it was, and then they're tossing them around.
It wasn't modern, and it wasn't super quickly edited. It was like long shots of like flipping him over his shoulder and stuff like that.
That was cool.
Old school style.
I was cool with that.
Little stuff like that.
You know what else was old school? Pike had that green shirt on.
Yes!
Like that Kirk has
the wrap.
A couple of the earlier.
Oh, right.
With the Starfleet insignia buckle.
It's like some kind of dress. Maybe it's a dressier sort of uniform.
I think it's unclear when it's used, but he seemed to be using it in the context of being slightly dressed up, although without being maybe a full dress uniform, which is kind of funny because you'd think you'd be like in your full dress uniform for
the Rongolians.
For the Rongolians, I love that name. The Rong. It's like, are they wrong all the time?
Or like Ron. It's like Mongolia, but it's made up of people named Ron.
Rongolian.
Ron.
When I was thinking of the music of the episode, for some reason I started thinking of the soundtrack to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, when Raphael meets Casey Jones, and it's all going do 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 do
yes.
do do do, and the music doesn't sound like this episode, but it had that kind of vibe where it's like we're zoopity booping along.
Well, they were mimicking. It's not exactly the same riff, but they were mimicking what happens all the time on TOS. They play that little sort of clowny music when something's supposed to be whimsical. They're like, "Oh shucks, look what's happening to Captain Kirk and his crew."
This is definitely the most whimsical episode so far.
Very whimsical. The music throughout I thought was fantastic. I thought it was amazing. The music in modern Star Trek in general, I think, has been top notch from Lower Decks, Discovery, Picard. I think they've all done very good jobs. It varies from episode to episode. Some stand out more than others. But Strange New Worlds, I think, has been doing a great job with the music in this episode in particular. And it's not just that call back to the Amok time theme fighting music. All throughout the episode, I thought the music played like a real strong role.
It did.
And they didn't overuse it because they had plenty of scenes that were silent without music. Because, sometimes you can go too far and just have constant music. And the music is more effective when there's absence of music, so that when the music kicks in, your brain is like, ooh, I have to feel a new emotion now.
Right. And it helped us, sort of set us like it was particularly stuck out for me with interactions between Una and La'an, sort of like, they have these similar personalities in this kind of way where they're all down to business and serious, but then they were being silly, even to the point where when La'an's like says to Una, she's like, people are idiots. You are fun, because Una offers her backup, and that's like their idea of fun. But even the way she says it, it's like you see this sort of like silly, weird side to them.
I really enjoyed that.
I like how they do like good cop, bad cop.
Oh,
yeah, that was such.
I was like, back up.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that still, like that's part of why
it was one of the most well-directed scenes thus far in this series. That editing back and forth between the good cop, bad cop was so precisely
would
done.
You like some coffee?
And they set the tone. So they were. The trick is being able to pull stuff off like that without sounding cheesy. And they set the tone pretty well at the beginning of the episode when Spock was like, the crew's here for some much needed rest and relaxation. You're like, okay, cool. It's going to be light stakes, it's going to, but
classic shore leave episode.
And it was, in your face, farcical about it in the sense that I'm going to keep using that word.
They've got their off-duty.
Farcical?
They've all got their off-duty outfits on.
Yeah, you have the situation where, T'Pril and Spock switch bodies, but it sorry, oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm thinking like Krill or something. Wasn't that Orville?
You're mixing like T'Pring and T'Pol.
Yeah.
Don't mix your T'Pring with your T'Pol.
Isn't there a Catrill? Isn't that what there wasn't
There's Kim Cattrall.
Catil. So, I mean, it's absurd, the situation, right? Where first of all, they somehow switch bodies because of some the mind melding thing.
All the lights go on.
All the lights go out. So something
which I think does happen in Freaky Friday.
Yeah, I think it does actually. I know.
Yeah. And vice versa.
By the way, I thought it was a lot of funny scenes. Like for some reason I thought it was really funny after the lights wouldn't come back on and it went away from them for a while. When it came back, they're still trying to switch their bodies back, and the scene just began with each other's hand on each other's head. Yeah. And there was something really like about that imagery. It just seemed it was silly and fun, and I enjoyed it. But the point I was getting at was Spock and T'Pring switch bodies, which is already kind of a silly scenario to begin with. But it just so happens right when they switch bodies, Spock has to do a job that only T'Pring can do, and T'Pring has to do a job that only Spock can do. Yeah. And
it's a classic sitcom.
Great, man.
It's a sitcom setup.
Yeah, it's absurd, but
it's like sci-fi sitcom style.
But it doesn't matter because it's not like they solved some huge stakes with it. They just did it to have fun, to sort of show you some cool stuff, and it was fine. I think it was appropriate. I thought Catil puts it. She goes to T'Pring. Actually, she goes, "You're the only one that can pull it off," which was
Catil?
I thought. That was T'Pring when T'Pring had
T'Pring's assistant.
T'Pring's assistant Catil.
Or backup, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh.
But she was like,
yes,
she was like, "You're the only one that can pull this off," which I thought was also funny that they just said "pull this off." It doesn't seem like kind of a Vulcan-y thing to say.
Well, I don't think that other woman was a Vulcan.
Yeah, they were both Vulcans. She was Vulcan.
Yeah, they were both Vulcan.
Her ears weren't all that pointy.
Yeah, she had.
They weren't all that.
You were seeing her head on, but she was dressed like a Vulcan.
Yeah. So it's of course it's a ridiculous situation, but it works because of the sort of rules they set up, I think, at the beginning of it.
And you know what? One of the rules we've set up, Dan,
is to take a break.
Is to take a break. To periodically take a break. To give ourselves and our audience.
Take a break, dude.
Periodically to take a break.
You need to take a chill.
Just a brief mental rest.
Let's play the brand new game.
Take a vocal nap.
Brand new game. Take or break. Jesse, take or break. Go.
Break.
Let's do it.
We'll be right back. We're back. We're back from break.
We did it
all the way back from break. It's got Star Trek or break. Talking about, what are we talking about? For the people who've just tuned in.
Spock Amok.
Captain Pike.
Spock Amok.
Spock Amok.
Spock Amok. Spock Amok.
Spock Amok.
The Dr. Mbega went fly fishing. That was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I love the hat.
Yeah, the hat was awesome.
Hat. I loved the scene.
And then they were goofing on him with the hat.
When the slow motion scene of him so happily.
I know.
I was touched by that.
I know.
I was like, he's so fucking happy right now. And there was nothing else going on. I remember I've watched this episode through twice, and both times I was like, "Oh, they're about he was going to be getting involved. Something's going to happen."
Well, they set it up like there was.
No, it was just like we just want to show this guy having a nice time.
Yeah,
he's the one person who's having a nice time.
Yeah,
in all of it.
Those other people are like doing some kind of meditating or Tai Chi or something.
Yeah, it was. It said some Tai Chi. Were they doing some kind of?
I don't know what they were doing. They were doing some kind of meditative exercise.
Maybe they were drinking some chai tea.
Whoa.
Which, by the way, that aggravates me because chai
some
means tea.
Yeah.
So you're really saying TT?
TT.
It's like saying ATM machine.
Look down your shirt.
Get with the program,
Jesse,
folks.
look down your shirt and spell attic.
Yeah, do
Speaking
it,
of chai tea.
Yeah, don't be chicken.
No, I like when Mbega. It's funny because he has that hat that's all silly and everyone makes fun of it, and he's
like it's for fly fishing,
and it's set up to be really silly and stuff. But like you said, when it shows that slow motion of him, it's actually really touching. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant for him to be comic relief so much as it was. I guess just levity followed. This episode was like really touching in a lot of ways, and
very much so. And like I said, the first time I'm watching the episode, in my mind, I thought, okay, it's going to connect to something. This whole fishing, but the second time through, it really struck me. It was like, no, they are just showing a guy on vacation having a good time. He's not dealing with the diplomatic nonsense. He's not dealing with
a bunch of sick people, a bunch of dying people,
or some romantic business.
You're talking about some Dr. Barroa.
That's the person he was going to meet up. We don't
know.
Person.
Yeah, we don't know about whatever the deal is with this person.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it was a scene left on the cutting room floor.
His squeeze or something?
There was some weird implication. It wasn't clear.
She said something about surgical techniques, and I don't mean cutting or something like that. But she was saying some kind of smart alecky remark.
Is she like surgically good at hand jobs or something?
Whoa. I don't know. No, she goes expert in non-invasive surgical techniques, so that tracks, Patrick.
Yeah.
And then
Wouldn't
she goes,
you want invasive?
And then she goes, cutting edge stuff, except without the cutting. Oh. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I laughed at that, but then I kind of was like, I'm not sure why I laughed at that.
Yeah,
I don't
just
know.
the edge, not the cutting, but the edge.
Just the edge.
Yeah.
They don't do a lot of cutting in Star Trek, like we mentioned last week.
Hypo spray.
Yeah. I want to make it clear last week, and I don't want to bring up a whole subject again. I want to make it very clear that when I was talking about...
It's got Dan making it clear.
Well, it's important that we analyze ourselves and we come back to it and we're open about, how we
clarifying or correcting mistakes.
It's responsible podcast.
It's responsible podcast. 100%.
I'm not saying correcting mistakes so much as analyzing oneself and
clarifying your position,
clarifying things to make just to grow,
so that people do not think that you're a fool.
No, just to have growth, just to show that it's okay to say that I was thinking about it and this is this way.
Yes,
and maybe
Rachel Maddow does that.
Maybe some ways I could have. So basically, I just want to make it clear that with the thing where the Una did the dramatic that's an order thing, that was me talking about not Una's character. That was me talking about like how they wrote that. And I want to make it very clear that stuff like that, and I've said this before, it does not detract from my enjoyment of the show. It's just some silly thing that I notice.
It's a particular little bugaboo that you have.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Bugaboo.
But if I was to rate the show on 1 to 10, it wouldn't detract points for it. It's just because it's so common. It
doesn't rate.
Because it's not limited.
There's no points, plus or minus.
Right, because it's not limited to Star Trek. It's done. They do it everywhere. It'd be nice if they didn't do it so much, but it's like whatever.
But what if you were in a scenario in which you were tasked with?
Don't task me, Patrick.
It was like one of those Star Trek episode tournament style things where you had no choice. You had two options. You got to pick one or the other. Do you think in that case, two evenly rated episodes, but one that has
coin toss, 50%?
That's an order in the way that you don't like. And by the way, for new listeners, I don't know why you're a new listener at this stage. At least start at the beginning of the season. But if you are a new listener, this is something that bothers Dan when a commanding officer says,
"This is 135."
Says, that's an order. He doesn't mind it in certain circumstances, but in other circumstances, he does
basically.
And so that's what I'm referencing.
And you'll have
here.
to stay tuned to figure out what we mean.
And so in terms of that, if you have two episodes, one of them has
I know where you're going
bad
with
this is an order, and one of them doesn't have it, but otherwise they're equally rated, would that push you towards the other episode? Would it be enough to lower it in the ranking in a head-to-head matchup?
Well, in this theoretical episode that is all things are equal except for that, which I don't even know how to imagine such a scenario, but all I can tell you is that if one affected the plot positively and one negatively, then yes, maybe. Right. But it's hard to quantify something such a ridiculous
it was a bit of a ridiculous question on my part.
Yeah, but I know
a bit of a ridiculous hypothetical.
No, but you were making a point. You were making a point. I think I found the point was mod.
And in the Star Trek fandom, such a scenario is not out of the question. Such a scenario may indeed come up.
Yeah,
we may enforce it on ourselves at some point.
Speaking of scenarios, I found it fascinating after the fact.
Classic old speaking of scenarios segue.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Dan was trained in actual radio.
Well, if you just let me finish
they train this into them in actual radio.
Instead of pre-poo-pooing my thingy, why don't you
Pardon me? Do you have any pre-poo?
Why don't you consume my thingy and then make the judgment?
Consume your poo-poo?
So just let me fucking say something. Let me just fucking say. Okay, speaking of scenarios. You were talking about in the fandom scenarios existing. I was fascinated after the fact by the bushwhacking bingo game they played.
Yes.
And when
I want to go through each of those items, by the way.
I have them all written down.
I have them all written down too.
Of course, but the one that
that
I was fascinated after the fact was the gum chewing one.
That was the best.
Yeah, because I was like, you know what? That is a good question, and I never even thought about it. But it totally sounds like a question someone would ask.
So the first one
I wasn't sure. Was the gum thing? Was it like, transporting makes replicated gum go back to flavor, or was it like you have to? Can I do it? Transport special to make it come back.
I think it's like something about like you tweaking with the transporter to bring it back. That was my guess, because that's the very first one is use the transporter to reflavor gum.
Yes.
So
do you think it can bring, if you're eating something, do you think it can like
bring it back to life?
Bring it back, not to life, but like bring it back before it's chewed again, and you can like eat it again.
Yeah, they could probably make it. They could probably just zap a bunch of bricks into your stomach if they wanted.
Yeah, exactly, right. You could eat a fucking brick if you want.
That's
O'Brien, give me a brick.
That's like back in O'Brien's day. That's what the bingo was about.
Like bricks.
Yeah.
Like on the Saratoga
Brick
or whatever
bingo.
he served on.
Saratoga.
Yeah, the
bingo.
first one used the transporter reflavor gum. So I agree. I think that was sort of one of the most intriguing one. Phaser stun duel.
A club. It was Phaser Stun Club, I thought.
No, on the one I have, it was Phaser stun duel. So we may be drawing from different sources.
I might have just read it wrong. I looked at the actual. I paused it on the thing and read it. I might have just read it wrong.
You might have done a better job than whoever transcribed the list that I copied and pasted from.
I don't know.
That one is a pretty funny one because she's like, "Oh, it stings."
Yeah, and I love La'an's reaction because she's just like, "Oh, yeah, oh, yeah." Like
it's like La'an doesn't really feel that much pain, so like if she actually got hit, she wouldn't have cared.
Well, I loved her reactions, like when they said Una was, Una looks at Chief Kyle, who is apparently some kind of asshole, according to the bingo players. They said like Chief Kyle, he's so mean. Yeah, do you think
I love that? I love that. It's one of my favorite things in the whole episode. Is like, oh my god, he's so mean because it's like he seems like such a nice guy.
Right? Do you think he's like some kind of like
he's mean to the ensigns?
Do you think he's insecure and so he acts like he's a big tough guy or something? Or it's just a gag, really? I think. But but she looks at Kyle and Kyle and she's like, "Have you heard this? This is where fun goes to die," and he's like, no, of course not, and of course he's like heard of it. But then she looks at La'an, and La'an's just like, oh, I thought La'an was like, we got a cool side to her character, but everyone's character.
I really love the character of La'an more and more. Each week, and this one really solidified.
You forgive her ancestry.
Right.
Yeah, she is not her ancestor.
Sins of the father. Christina Chong is doing such a fucking amazing job with this character. All the actors are doing a great job, but there's a lot on her shoulders. She's playing a fairly complex character, and to be able to switch back and forth between the traumatized person and the intensely competent person, and here sort of traumatized, competent, and goofy a little bit. Or she's goofy because she's trying to be childish and sort of not quite figuring it out.
I know she's goofy in the way that she's like serious about work. She's goofy about it somehow. That makes her goofy. It's really it's interesting.
I think it was really great. But the phaser stun duel also for me worked so well because that's the most obvious thing people would do. In a Star Trek world, if you could set phasers to stun, obviously you do that. You know why you know that?
The lowest stun.
Yeah, because guess what? You know what happens when people get like stun guns? They stun each other.
Yeah. I mean, Jackass.
Yes. I mean, that's what people do that type of stuff, right? Yeah. People talk about like, hey, what if we stand far away and we're like a trash can and we'll shoot each other with a .22 rifle? Like people do stuff like that.
Johnny Knoxville actually became famous. His first stunt is he was doing military testing, or he's testing like military equipment.
Oh, right.
And he wore like a Kevlar vest and shot himself with a fucking pistol.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Inadvisable. But entertaining.
Yeah.
Inadvisable but entertaining, I think, is a good slogan.
Yeah, he's interesting guy. Anyway, the next one was Turbo
Lift 2-floor shout challenge.
Right. So it seemed like La'an was she was like, this isn't fun, but then on that one, she seemed like she was having a good time.
Because she lost the first round, right? And that was another one that sounded fun, using the voice commands to see who could get there the quickest.
It's like Jeopardy.
Set the universal translator to Andorian.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of arbitrary.
We didn't get to see that one. Another one we didn't get to see is the gravity boot hang challenge.
Right.
We're left to our imagination to wonder what that was about.
I didn't get this next one.
Medical tricorder challenge Vulcan marsupial.
I looked at it and I swear it said Marupial, and I'm like, Marupial, that doesn't even make sense. But I looked at it and I didn't see a fucking S in there. I didn't see an S in there.
Well, that's what it apparently says, and it's also
according to who?
According to the internet.
Well, I mean, according to which internet?
Because there's no such thing as a Marupial.
But it's a Voyager joke, because there's a later season episode of Voyager where it gets a little complicated as to why it comes up, but basically the doctor's tricorder is hacked into as a joke, and he's scanning somebody, and they're coming up on the tricorder as reading as a Vulcan marsupial.
Okay, well that's probably what it
like
is.
A deep Easter egg.
But I swear, I looked at that for a good long time, and I was like, I was thinking it's got to say marsupial, but I didn't see fucking S. So fuck.
I think it's great that you looked at it for a long time. I encourage that sort of behavior.
And Phaser Stun Club. I'll have to check that again, but I didn't think
maybe
it said
there's something
dual.
wrong with your viewing device.
Yeah, maybe. I must suck.
Food replicator challenge, durian fruit.
Yeah, well, why not?
Now, here's the thing with this.
I wonder if that's illegal against the rules to make durian fruit in the replicator.
Here's the thing about that.
Do people make egg
You wouldn't
salad?
be able to if it was illegal.
The thing about a durian fruit.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Durian fruit is stinky, but the insides are very tasty.
That's what I hear.
The insides aren't stinky.
I hear it's kind of like oniony feet, though it smells.
The smell is bad, but the insides are very tasty, like all sweet and delicious or whatever.
You're not allowed to bring them on planes, they say.
The replicated version probably wouldn't have any smell to it. It would just have all the positives.
And the thing though is
the
that
smell is part of taste.
Yeah, I could buy it having the smell, but like also like when you go to the grocery store,
they call it an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
And and you mean an otolaryngologist?
I didn't say that.
Yeah, I used to drive by the American Society for Otolaryngology.
I just said ENT is what they call them.
An otolaryngologist.
Hyperflamentologist.
An ear, nose, and throat doctor? Isn't that an otolaryngologist?
Okay, maybe.
I could have that wrong, but I believe that an ear, nose, and throat doctor is an otolaryngologist.
I'm not gonna fucking argue with you because I don't know, but I've never heard it referred to as that. I'm sure it's probably technically that, but who fucking says that?
This guy says it. This guy said it like 10 times.
I know.
Presumably when somebody signs up
with
for
his
school,
college word, his big college $5 college words.
Mr. College over here.
It's at least a $10.
Oh, his college.
Inflation has been high lately. Otolaryngology.
They specialize in coprophagia.
No, but the durian fruit, when they're frozen, when you go to the grocery store and you purchase yourself a durian fruit, they usually sell them like either frozen or chilled, and then they don't smell.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. It's like dog poop. Dog poop doesn't smell unless you put it in the microwave.
Okay. All right. I don't think you're like, okay. We're probably not going to investigate the sort of the track of knowledge that led you.
Let's not say we did.
Sort of like the history that led you to have what seems to be a fairly sincere understanding about
Just don't eat poop, okay?
Listen, don't. You're thinking about it.
Take it from a guy who knows.
You're thinking about trying it. Just don't worry about it.
Take it from a guy who's been around the block a few times.
It's got to be the worst tasting thing in existence.
Think about it.
I don't know. That rotted Icelandic shark I had was pretty fucking bad.
I'm sure it is, but it's not feces.
A lot of that was the texture.
Okay. I don't care about texture. That texture doesn't bother me ever.
I care about texture.
Do you like raw oysters?
I do. I know
because that's all weird texture.
No. I don't have a problem with weird textures, but I am sensitive to textures. So there are some textures that I'm not as fan of, but more.
So you do have a problem with them?
No. Look, yes, some, but I haven't described what the oysters are not one of those things. But where that comes in handy is where I can tell I can tell the difference between like some good shit and some bad shit. With the Icelandic rotted shark, the problem was it was both bouncy and it was like firm and pus like. It sort of pops in your mouth and it's soaked full of ammonia and lye.
Yeah, right. Lye.
And it's rotting.
That's like when
it's like it was really gross. It's all drippy and firm and.
The texture
like chewing on a tumor.
When I had a pig ear, when I had pig ear soup, the texture was weird because it was kind of like what I imagine eating a rubber band is like, because it was all crunchy in the middle but soft on the outside. Yeah. Not really soft isn't the right word, but
I've chewed on rubber bands before.
Yeah.
So, you had one of them cricket tacos, right?
Oh yeah, the cricket taco.
That seems like a little too much cricket.
Yeah, it was just a little leggy, but it was flavorful.
Yeah, but it was alright.
It was kind of like ground. Leggy. It was like ground flavored seafood.
I'm sure it's good. It's just a whole mouthful of it sounds like it might be.
It was a taco. Much. It had like some pico de gallo and some.
I'm
sure
very
spicy.
Fine. Yeah, I'm sure it's. I'm sure it's good.
I think I could deal with them legs.
That's been weird food and texture.
I'm gonna eat them legs on a taco.
Next
eat
one.
Eat them legs on a taco.
Sneak a tribble into the transporter.
That just sounds cruel for everyone involved.
I can't do a triple. Can anyone do a triple noise?
Isn't it just? Or is it really?
Yeah, but it's got its own vibe going.
Is it like that?
I don't know. Try it. It doesn't sound like a triple, but I was enjoying that for separate reasons, which will remain private.
So you just put them in the buffer just so like. Is it like so you see them when you're transporting like that?
I guess.
What was that TNG episode?
The next time you transport, like a triple pops out.
What was the TNG episode where there was the slug hanging around the buffer?
Yeah,
there was a flying slug in the buffer.
Yeah, with
flying slug in the buffer.
Flying slug in the buffer.
Barkley.
Barkley in the buffer.
Barkley in the buffer.
Flying slug in the buffler.
The next one I thought was a really sweet one was sit in the captain's chair.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of like the phaser duel. It's like, that's an obvious one. It's
Remember
like
when
everyone
Trip
wants to try
Tucker
to
the
do
Third was like fixing?
that. You mean Charles Trip Tucker the Third?
Cam, I think you need a new chair.
To Paul.
To Paul.
There is that episode of Enterprise where Tucker is spending like all episode like adjusting the captain's chair because like they're trying to fix it. Somehow.
Oh, is it Tucker? Yeah, it was Tucker. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Tucker's like he's fixing the captain's chair.
I'm just. There's just something wrong with it.
Yeah.
There's just something.
Why is it his job?
Just doesn't feel right. I gotta fix it. I gotta fix it.
Then the EV suit challenge, unsanctioned spacewalk, which
they didn't do because they weren't wearing an EV suit. They did a force field thing.
But that's all played. So
was
like
the Scorch.
Presumably the EV suit challenge is tied together with Sign the Scorch. Like the EV suit challenge is its own thing, and then there's the Sign the Scorch.
You have to like get out before they notice that you're sneaking out of the ship or something.
Yeah, I guess so. And then the thing with Una,
they're gonna know.
With Una, with number one, was she made the point, or like both she and La'an arrived at the point that they're having trouble with this game in part because they make the rules. So how are they going to break the rules? Because they can do what they want, kind of. So I think the point of them going out without the EV suits was to go beyond what the others do, because they're like, we're trying to elevate this,
pushing it.
I got the point. I think it wasn't 100% clean. It didn't quite 100% work because it was like, yeah, you're still doing the same thing. Yeah, it's a little different, but it did give us that great scene at the end where they're both amazed by the sailing ship.
the solar ship or solar sailing ship or whatever. I was imagining that must be awesome to be on watching this ship going right above you overhead. It's all big and beautiful and is flying the flag and is all
weirdly anachronistic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Inaccurate, except not for us, but for them.
Yes,
but
exactly.
it was also kind of like a sailboat too. Yeah,
yes,
it was
it's
weird.
a future tense anachronism. And
there's some kind of Deep Space Nine where they make a sail. Some kind of space sail.
Yeah, and it's all like,
is that Explorers? It might be called Explorers.
And it's all subjective. Like they're not like they're inside it, but they can feel all the rumbling and all the craziness
it's all
happen.
shaky.
Yeah.
And all that.
So
there's no inertial dampeners.
Dampers, damn it. Or either, really, it doesn't matter. It must be awesome to stand on the side of the Enterprise, out in fucking space, watching this ship flying overhead.
Yes.
That must have been like really
glorious.
Yes, glorious. It's kind of like hanging out with a bunch of dolphins.
Yeah, or hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Yeah.
Mr.
Or
Cooper.
Free Willy, like when Free Willy goes like flying over top of that kid.
Would you rather hang out with Mr. Cooper or Free Willy?
Mr. Cooper.
I have more in common with Mr. Cooper.
Nobody knows that show. I'm hanging with Mr. Cooper.
You think none of our audience knows hanging with Mr. Cooper?
What was that guy's name?
Well, all three of us are familiar with the show. I'm sure a significant portion of our audience. How about this? Write in at feedback@itsgotstartrek.com and let us know.
Mark Curry, yeah.
Let us know if you are familiar. You needn't have watched it. You needn't know the name of all the actors.
I don't think I watched it that much.
But just let us know if you are familiar with Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Cooper.
Was that the theme song?
Yeah.
See, I don't remember the theme song. I remember watching the show, but I don't remember the theme song. All right. So I agree. Yes, majestic stuff there.
We're talking about the good cop, bad cop. It was so exaggerated. Everything was so exaggerated, but once again, it works in this, in how they set the episode. It works in this.
And they're using
the tone is right.
They're using the communications officer, right? So this is another good thing that they're doing with Strange New Worlds is we have our main characters we focus on, but they keep bringing back the same background characters or secondary characters and are building up their story. Kyle is like that. Totally. The communications officer is like that. The Bolian ensign we just met, but I'm sure we're going to see her again. It certainly seems that way, right? Or I can expect that because that's what this show has been doing is like sort of introducing people and sprinkling them around in the plot, which is cool.
Yeah, there was
That's what's cool, man.
Speaking of exaggerated and silliness, the whole interaction between Spock and T'Pring, right when they were getting switched, that was a whole series of silly dialogue, basically. Starting from when they started the scene with the hand on each other's head, trying to do some trick to get him back in, and it was like just kind of humorous. And then, T'Pring as Spock, which I know. For some reason, it was so straightforward. T'Pring is Spock, Spock is T'Pring, but I had a hard time like keeping up for some reason. I felt really slow. I was like, I only have 2 people to keep track of, and it's hard for me
Vulcans.
to fucking. Yeah, I know. What does it mean?
That was the joke that Pike was making when T'Pring as Spock was saying, like, well, now that you know, you can probably, it's probably obvious from our different mannerisms.
Yes,
totally.
And he's like,
Pike is all like, sure.
Yeah, he goes, yeah, totally. Yeah. No, that was part of this silly dialogue. That was awesome and hilarious, and made me wonder. What is it?
Get out of town.
What is it?
We're not in a town.
Yeah, right. That was the classic.
It's so dumb and so fun.
It's like, what are you talking about? I can't figure out what
Young,
kind of...
dumb, and full of fun.
So T'Pring as Spock goes, I know how a door works, and then T'Pring as Spock goes, I do not like hijinks, and then Spock is T'Pring, and she goes, I like when Spock as T'Pring goes, hijinks are the most logical course of action. For some reason, that was really funny. The whole exchange between them and Pike was hilarious. Yeah, they get out of town.
And how Pike was immediately like, I don't know, we still need Spock. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna sort this out or fix this. He's like, all right, you go in.
Yeah,
you be Spock.
So, well, and
you be 40.
You B4, and Data is B4. Well, it made me when he was
Data, Lauren, B4.
When they were talking about the different mannerisms, it made me think about once again. What does it mean to have a personality as a Vulcan? What is that supposed to mean? We have all had our discussions about Vulcans.
Personalities.
But what does it mean to have a personality without if you don't have? And I know that
that Barjon guy was a complete fucking dickhead.
Yeah, he was a total asshole.
I love that. The actor did such a good job of portraying like that classic. Like I'm not even normal Vulcan. I'm like forgetting about logic. I'm into emotion and stuff, and I'm still a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah. So what was his deal? We didn't find out. He was a criminal. Was he an emotional criminal?
The implication and from his portrayal was that he was somebody who was one of these, like, so we've dealt in the past that we dealt with like on Enterprise and like and in Discovery, like different and on TNG as I recall, like there's different sects of Vulcans who are like more about logic, and they're like the current Vulcans aren't logical enough. But then there's also, I think, some like Sybok was an example, and this might be a sort of a sly reference to Sybok, not Sybok directly, but maybe this is the type of guy that Sybok got in with. Sybok, who is Spock's brother, who was introduced in Star Trek V. Similar vibe in the sense it's like
he's like a half.
We're still Vulcan, but we're gonna like reclaim our emotions somewhat. I kind of got the vibe that that's where we were going.
Yeah, T'Pring made some kind of Spock as T'Pring. This is confusing me, and it shouldn't. It's simple.
Who's on first?
When they were saying, I sympathize with those he was like all like dissing on him about using, being Windows. It's like one thing to do emotions, it's another person to marry someone, and then
marry a dirty pink skin.
And then Spock was talking about,
which I never liked that insult on by the way. Pink skin. Side point, not to interrupt you, Dan, but since I said pink skin, I have to call out the like on Enterprise. It's very kind of shows the problem with the Rick Berman era, as progressive as Star Trek could be. Like their insult to Federation types and humans was to call them pink skins, which was declaring white people as the default.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Right.
I know that's not how they meant it, but. Yeah. It's kind of how it came across.
They had non-white people on Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly. They did have exactly, and they still Strand was calling him Pinskin, and it was meant to be all whimsical and stuff. So, but in this case, they actually did it better because this guy was just like, oh no, all humans. It doesn't matter what they look like; they're just gross.
Well, then Spock as T'Pring goes, my sympathy for those without logic is why I'm here. Just because you have emotion doesn't mean you're without logic. But I guess in Vulcan's mind, from a Vulcan's perspective, you can't be both or something. I don't know. I think is taking it a little bit far. But what?
That's what they do.
But it's just an interesting question to me. What does it mean to have emotions? What does it mean to? I mean, I think about these like really deep thoughts. Like, what does it mean to have emotions? No, but can you want things without an emotion? Is wanting something, desiring something, is that an emotion? Have a personality. Do you need? Can you have a personality with no emotion?
My perspective is, and always has been, and whether how much of this was the intent of the writers or not, I think this is how it comes across over the course of all of Star Trek, is that Vulcans say one thing.
Well, yes,
and the reality is the things you're questioning are revealing that you of course there's emotion there. Of course Vulcans can lie. Of course Vulcans can be pieces of shit, and some of them can be nice and some of them can be artistic and what they have music, they have art. All of these things require, I would argue, I'm sure you could make arguments to the alternative, but I buy into the arguments that these things require some form of emotional core.
Right. Yeah.
However, you're going to interpret it or mask it or whatever.
The mannerism thing, I guess the only difference I could tell is that Spock as T'Pring sounded more a deeper voice, and T'Pring as Spock kind of had a higher voice, and he kind of like held his hands a little higher or something. That was pretty much the basis.
A lot of it was more subtle in terms of the dialogue.
Sort of the cadence of the way he was speaking.
Man, that Vulcan relationship sounds so transactional. It's just like
like, why are they even getting married?
They sound like that, but then of course at the end, that's what T'Pring is saying. It can't be transactional. She's like, seems like she was trying to avoid this as a transactional thing, and which is an interesting thing to introduce in the idea of an arranged, seemingly semi-arranged anyway. It certainly seems like an arranged marriage thing. Okay, how about this? Let's take another quick break, and then we'll be back after the break.
Back after
what?
We come back after the break.
Back after.
Take a break, and then we come back after.
Back after.
All right, we'll be right back. We have returned from the break.
After the break.
It is now after the break. This is the last segment of the podcast.
So
turning a corner.
So to sort of finish
towards the end, towards the finish line.
So to finish up, kind of, I guess what they're talking about with T'Pring and Spock.
Spock had a poor role model as a father because Sarek was a bad dad.
Yeah,
he was a complicated dad.
He was complicated. So T'Pring was saying to Spock, it's the old, you made plans with me. I know you have. It's like when you make plans with me, don't put work ahead of me. But then Pike didn't make the point without realizing he was making that point to her. But
no, he realized. I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
No, I'm not talking about the scene where he was talking to T'Pring as Spock.
Oh, okay.
Because that scene, it seemed like he was directly telling T'Pring how much value Spock has.
Spock is pretty rad.
Yeah.
And that's why you like him, and that's why we like him.
But he makes it the point where when T'Pring is Spock, and he's like, I don't think you understand. Like, this territory depends upon you talking right now. Yes. And so I think, you need to put, and I'm not going to make a judgment about this because I don't fucking know where to draw lines with any of this stuff, but it's like...
It's interesting because it's complicated. There's no easy answer.
It's complicated. You have to dedicate your time to a relationship. You can't spend all your time at work, but at the same time, some serious shit can go down. It's like... Sometimes I would think when I was at some points with my job, it's like, well, they can't make me do that. That's not fair. And maybe it's not fair. Maybe they really shouldn't be doing that. Maybe they're total fucking assholes for doing that. But the reality doesn't change the reality of that. I need a fucking job. I need it. And if I get a better situation, sure, I'll take it. But just because
that's due to capitalism.
Just because something that specific part, yes. But just because something should be a specific certain way, like it doesn't change the reality of the results. And the reality of the results is, Spock. Well, I think Chappell made the good point of Spock needs to be honest with himself, which is more the solid point.
I think the message is, because what you've presented so far are sort of two sides, but there is the third option, and that's what Chappell is saying. T'Pring says it more like in a way more overtly. But Chappell is saying it, I think she's saying it in a way that Spock understands more clearly, which is saying one option is you guys shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
If you have incompatible needs, it doesn't matter how much you like each other. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And right now she was basically,
and that's the thing is don't string someone along basically,
and which is what she was doing. And this is
that's interesting.
Brilliantly written episode in the mirroring thing, because she's realizing the same thing about herself. And that I keep forgetting that guy's name because he was so fucking boring.
Some Lieutenant Red Shirt or whatever.
Lieutenant Dever or something.
Lieutenant Boring Face.
Dever. Yeah.
No offense to the actor, he just did a brilliant job of portraying somebody who seems attractive but aggravating.
I'm trying to remember the TV show where they were dating that dude that was all into loggers. Oh, that was Parks and Rec.
Knight Rider.
Huh? Not Knight Rider. No, it was Parks and Rec, where there was a dude who was all into loggers, and he was really boring. His whole thing was he was really...
into beer, lager beer.
Yeah, it was loggers. I don't know. It was... Or Pilsners. No, it was Pilsners. That's so specific. It's like, who's into Pilsners? Anyways, a point being, you made a good point. You made a good point.
Yes, that Chappell is making a realization about herself, and also passing that same lesson along to Spock, which is one option is don't string this person along. You have to put that into your calculation. And again, if your needs are incompatible, that's going to be an issue. And Spock is still in the phase of, no, we can work it out. We can make the long distance thing work. That kind of thing is it's not that it's impossible, but it takes, both people have to be on board with what the costs to the relationship that's going to incur.
So the first instance of silly Spock was in that conversation with Chapel when he's like talking about, I can't remember, he made some joke about something, about some turn of phrase or something like that.
Well, she made a rhetorical statement.
Yeah, right. And
he pretended not to understand what it
right.
meant.
And
so
then of course, and then he was being silly. That was silly Spock. But
real quick, that scene, I also think, and minor spoilers for people who are not familiar with the rest of Star Trek, but the whole Spock Chapel thing is sort of like even in TOS that was a thing. It wasn't commented on a lot, but it was there. TOS, TAS. I think this is the moment. From my perspective, this is my judgment. I can't say this with any certainty, but the way that they portrayed the scene and the dialogue, I think this is the moment that Nurse Chapel falls in love with Spock.
That's actually where I was going with that, because it seems like they're really good friends, but the way she kind of laughs when he jokes, it starts it, and then at the end of the episode, the way they sort of cut everything together with Spock and T'Pring, they were kissing or whatever, and then they transitioned over directly from that to Ortegas and Chapel, and then Ortegas and
Chapel's about to admit it.
She's about to say, she's like, never
mind, I'm gonna drink my wine.
Yeah,
she's like some kind of orange
slurp
wine.
down my space wine.
She goes
space wine.
What it was is
really orange
space
looking.
wine. Space one on
space
or like tomato juice or something.
But Ortegas points out to Chapel that she needs to be honest, so there's parallels like you were saying with them and Spock, and she worries that the relationship might get more serious, and Ortegas is like, and then she goes, it would have to be the right guy, and then she kind of stops herself, and that alone kind of like implies, based upon the episode, what happened to Spock, but the fact that they transitioned from Spock and T'Pring over to Ortegas and Chapel with some kind of the music was also, the lyrics of the music were something like having to do with like, are you in love with the right? I can't remember the fucking lyrics.
Are you in love with the right person? Dude.
Is the person you love the person you love, or do you love the other person instead? It was that song.
Yeah, that's how that
is
song
it the person that you love, or is it the other person that you love?
Classic
Which do you
standard.
love more? Do you like this? Do you think you like this one thing, but you like the other? Be honest with yourself. It was that song.
Yeah, that they always had it like when we were kids, and they would like late at night on the TV commercials, on like Nick at Night, they would have those compilations of classic tunes,
power ballads from the 80s.
That was one of the ones they would always play that song, like to advertise the compilation.
That was
that
the
song.
biggest hit.
You think you like this one thing, but you like the other. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah, it was also used in a commercial for Tide.
Yeah,
saying Tide is actually better than ALL.
You should wash your clothes with Tide and like this, and
you should do it because it's super cool. But so it seemed pretty apparent. An apparition. If you said apparent and you pronounce apparition like apparent, you would say apparition. Apparition.
What?
Apparition.
Is everything all right?
And if you said apparent like apparition, you'd say apparent.
Okay, Dan. I know. I normally edit this podcast. You edited it last week. I know it takes a lot out of you. I do think you've gone slightly mad. You know that old Queen song, "I'm Going Slightly Mad"? Mm-hmm. That's you right now.
That's you right now.
Slightly.
That's a great song, by the way. All right. Anything else? Any other major topics? Did we cover most of the things?
Well, I thought that when Pike sort of gave the summation.
Oh yeah, we totally didn't talk at all about that. It's I don't even know. Is that supposed to be I don't think it's the A story. I guess the A story is the Spock and T'Pring thing, but that's like tangential to it. That's like the A.2 story.
This whole episode was about looking at things from other people's perspectives. Yeah. We got to see others.
Radical empathy.
Yeah. Radical empathy, not to be mistaken for absolute candor.
Yeah, and not to be mistaken with just plain radical.
Radical.
Like just radical.
Like in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when Raphael,
radical.
You know, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
We see the different side of the fun side of Una and La'an. We see Spock and T'Pring do a body switch thing to try to get each other. But you know what? They didn't even really, because I was talking last week how when you do a mind meld with people, you'd think you'd get permanently be affected by this. Which in
theory you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're supposed to always have that shit in your head.
Right. And I'm wondering, with a mind meld...
I guess it depends how deep you go.
Yeah, I mean, with the mind meld, is it truly like two...
How much mind do you meld?
Is it truly two minds into one separate mind? Or is it just... Are there still demarcations? Are there still lines drawn between... Is it two minds working together?
Well, they still got lines, because remember in the last episode where they were like, we're going to end this mind meld. We're not going any deeper.
I guess they could depend...
There's still some kind of... barriers.
So I guess theoretically, if you mind meld enough, you could essentially become one mind. Maybe it just takes more time or something. But anyways,
it's like when you got two different colors of Play-Doh and you mix them together a little, and you can still see them. But if you mix them together a lot,
there was a Turkey TV
brown
Play-Doh about that.
Turkey TV,
some like brown mind.
So when Spock, it was funny because Spock was straight up. You sound like that laugh that Rongolian did, that fake ass laugh that Rongolian.
You said it was
Rongolian.
funny. Yeah, you said it was funny.
Yeah, I know what you were doing. So Spock was into Pring's body, and he didn't. Shut up.
No, that was actually funny. Because he was later.
Yeah, he was, but not fully.
I mean, we're assuming.
But you would think that, I guess this is the joke, is where Chapel goes, well, isn't that weird, your inner body? That must be something. He's like, I hadn't even considered it. So, I mean, that's just a very Vulcan thing. Maybe in the future, they just don't give a shit about looking from other people's perspectives because they already mastered it. Maybe they've already mastered looking. Maybe that's why it's so peaceful in the future of Star Trek, because it's like, oh, this two minds becoming one. That's old. I like saying old hat. That's my term tonight.
I like saying hat on a hat.
Yeah.
You know that term in comedy?
Do you like
hat on a hat?
Is an ass hat a hat made out of ass, or an ass you put, or a hat you put on your ass?
What?
An ass hat. Is that a hat made out of ass, or an ass, is that an ass made out of hat, or a hat you put on your ass?
I think it means you have your head up your ass. I think it means you have your head up your ass, or your ass is your hat.
Okay. Anyways, so
it's usually someone probably with a head up their ass.
A hat on a hat is when it's an extra joke. Like you already have a joke, but then you put another joke on top of the joke.
Right. Yeah, I know. I get it.
Generally unnecessary unless you're very skilled.
So when Spock when they do the mind switch, they're not actually mind melding at that point because they're not joining minds. Switching. He's still Spock, just in T'Pring, and T'Pring is in Spock. There's no mind. But he didn't even care about being in the body, because I guess that's just, Vulcans are.
They didn't do any of the childish grabbing boobs or balls.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect them to do that. I mean, I didn't expect them.
You think it happened off screen? I didn't mean in the story.
No, I just mean when it was.
I don't think Vulcans do that. I don't think that.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is maybe
they're so
in the
enlightened
future,
that like if you're like in a man's body, you're not gonna like
it doesn't matter.
Jangle the Vulcan testicles a little bit.
The point I was trying to make is maybe that's.
You think Vulcans have pointy testicles?
No, that's the point I was trying to make. Was just like. Can I just make this? Can I just fucking
long pointy testicles?
Can I please just fucking finish my point? Can I finish my point?
Try.
Sure, go for it.
Just like. They're not that surprised by being in another body. They don't think it's all crazy, and because they're just beyond that kind of shit. Maybe it's the same with perspective, is they're just so used to seeing from other people's perspectives.
Are you talking about Vulcans or the other people?
I'm talking about mind melds.
Oh, okay.
Vulcan and other people too. Everybody. Maybe
I was talking about those aliens. What was the name of the aliens?
Rongolian.
So maybe I'm.
Oh yeah,
you almost let me finish. You almost let me finish. You almost did. You almost let me finish.
Podcast edging.
No, that's
what the kids.
It gets fucking old.
We're all back together again.
It gets fucking old sometimes.
Go for it.
Anyways, I'm just saying that, like,
love being back.
Just like you don't care about being in someone else's body, maybe you don't care about melding minds in the future. I don't know. Now it's just all.
I totally know what you're saying. I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
They're unconcerned at a certain level.
But
they're bothered by the inconvenience, not by the scenario.
But Pike's point of when they say when he sort of sums up the whole thing, he says maybe they're
place market.
He's just saying maybe they're just looking for somebody to take their point of view. Radical empathy, maybe what they value the most in others, it's the capacity to see things their way, and
some people like
and that was that I thought was an awesome message,
Yes.
and it was kind of along the lines of what I was kind of trying to get at last week with the Vulcan mind meld stuff, but I think this was like really well put. And the whole episode, you see another side of Una and Lon, you see another, Spock and Spring, they switch sides, and then
Spock and Spring.
And then you got this alien race that's
You guys just Spock and
they
Spring.
got this Rongolians that are full of empathy and all that stuff, and right down to Chief Kyle, who we're finding out another side of Chief Kyle,
mean.
that he's apparently a meanie. So this episode was all about showing the opposite, like different sides of people, and I thought it was fun and cool.
I think that at the Pike Place Market in Seattle, which is a wonderful place to go, and everyone should take an opportunity to go there.
This has nothing to do with anything.
No, it's Captain Pike.
It's like
I think
multi-level.
because like they have like a statue of like Janeway in such and such place, and then they have like a statue of Kirk or something like in Iowa, birthplace. Where's
there a statue of Janeway?
They should put in like Indiana, I think, or something.
Indiana,
wherever she's born from, like the character. But at the Pike Place Market, I think they should put a big old statue of Captain Pike, and he can point people towards the crazy fish tossing people and the people who sell all that custom made
custom custard.
The pasta.
Custom pasta mustard.
They got the pasta.
Custom custard pasta
Person
mustard.
there sells some pasta.
Custard mustard custom mustard. Custom mustard Costco custard. Pusco Mungus.
Pusco Mungus.
If humans evolved from apes, where did Vulcans evolve from, and why do they look similar if not from something ape-like?
Of course they evolved from apes.
Well,
this
that
guy was a piece of shit.
Barjan,
apes with pointy ears.
Fuck this guy.
He was talking about some El Kashtankle.
What?
El Kashtankle. Kashtanky.
Stankadelphia.
And some Vatosh Couture. Stankadelphia. No, El Kosh Katan.
What?
I'm wondering what those things he was saying was.
He was saying all sorts of things.
Yeah. That guy, he was why did they punch him? Were they trying to capture him?
Yeah, they were trying to bring him in,
Yeah.
and one point I wanted to make that I thought was and sort of subtly hilarious, which I think it was intended to be, is that the Vulcans were introduced to this idea that the Vulcans have like a whole, basically like a police force, like these like equivalent of like FBI agents or whatever, and their whole deal is they go yell at people with logic and convince them to not be like illogical anymore.
Right.
And apparently with some level of success. And it's just funny, and it's
like the grammar police.
Yeah, well, the idea of Vulcan culture having a system not only of people where they're like, okay, our plan is we're gonna all like logic them into being logical. Like the person is illogical,
right, so
we will logic them into being logical.
You're using the wrong tool.
So
you should appeal to their emotions to make them more logical.
Here's a hat and a hat. It's a
head.
double joke because it's a joke just to have that. It's a joke just to have that concept to begin with. And then on top of it, like the added joke is that in Vulcan society, it works a lot of the time. Like a lot of people raised on Vulcan are like, oh, you know what? You made a good point. You made a good logical point and tricked me back into being logical. All right. Any other major points, or shall we move on to odds and ends? I've got a couple of odds and ends here.
I've been doing odds and ends all night.
I know. Just as always, popping out the odds and ends all throughout the episode. Spreads them out a little bit. Dan and I like to save them for the end.
Vaso Legalia. I couldn't find out. Like I was trying to find the actor for that, but I couldn't find it.
Sometimes they don't have all the actors up on IMDb.
Yeah, it'll probably come up
even
at some
Memory
point.
Alpha as quick as
Scaly Balia. What did you say?
Scaly Balia.
Vassal Spaghetti.
Scaly Bailey.
Spaghettarina. What was that?
Spaghettarino. I said Spaghettarino. That's what I said.
That is what you're saying. Spock's Salat Ichaya was name called.
Oh,
again.
yeah, right.
We first hear that.
She had
I
a
can't remember.
Malamute.
There was some sort of TOS episode where he mentions Ichaya, and then in the
TAS,
TAS in
yeah.
Yesteryear, which we discussed in episode. Blah, blah,
I think
blah.
you did some kind of funny voice during that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which one? Oh,
Chaya.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
probably did.
Yeah.
I've been known from time to time to make a voice.
Word to
voice
the
or
wise,
two.
new podcast listeners. If you go back through our catalog, any of the animated, like anytime we discuss the animated series, that's a good podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, yeah, it can be a little hit or miss, but those are all good.
Those are always
those are always good.
That one about the Irish village, man.
Oh, that one. I enjoyed that one.
We were talking about oysters. Do you want some Slanikin oysters? Is that they were talking about some Slanikin oysters?
I didn't catch that.
They were talking about some kind of oysters.
What was weird about
mannequin oysters?
They were talking about some. I want to know what those oysters taste like.
I want to know what Slanikin is.
Slanikian. I want to know what Slanikian is.
Too many syllables. Too many syllables for that particular song.
Why do you think the Rongovians weren't happy at their initial meeting? Do you think Pike was being too slick and like not getting to the point?
Slanikian?
You know, remember the Rongolians, how they were saying they didn't want to meet with Pike anymore. They wanted to meet with Spock. You think Pike was just being too slick? And
I think Pike was arguing in favor. He was like, "Here's all these reasons you should join the Federation," and he was giving all the arguments that are true arguments, maybe, but the Rongovian opinion. My understanding was Pike figured out at the end. He was like, "Oh, okay." I was telling them all these things, but I wasn't I wasn't coming at it from their perspective. I wasn't addressing their concerns from their perspective. I was just citing all these reasons why you should join.
So I guess the reason they came to as to why Spock and T'Pring switched brains and didn't go back is because it was Spock's human side. The emotions kept him in.
It was the implication.
That was interesting.
They didn't specify.
It didn't really matter
specifically that it was Spock.
It doesn't matter.
You could assume that, but it could be T'Pring as well. You know, they're both dealing with
What do you think micro cleaning is?
Hooba snake? With a microfiber cloth.
Do you think in the future
I think it's really tedious.
I was thinking it's like some kind of future version of scrubbing with a toothbrush or something.
Yeah, but like with the future version of the microfiber cloth.
It's even more microwave fibery.
Well, it's probably not that difficult a job.
How dirty do you think the transporter pads get?
They're all filled with tribbles and bubblegum.
Yeah, they're probably filled with they're probably filled with all sorts of gooey buffer and stuff.
Gooey buffer.
Yeah.
Like all your liquids fall out when you like. That's the side effect.
It's
all
like
your
what they
liquids
don't
gotta
show
fall.
you.
Yeah,
it's sanitized for television. Is that you just make it melted into a pile of component molecules.
Any kind of
human slurry.
Yeah, any kind of organ that holds liquids that's passing through, like the various body parts, it just slurps on the ground.
Just empties.
Why don't you go through and name all the organs that hold liquids?
The heart pumps it.
Yeah.
So ensure to empty the heart. The liver holds all sorts of nastiness.
Yeah, at least for a little while.
There's the colon.
That's full of stuff.
It's not necessarily liquid, but it can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends on what you got.
I mean, there's of course, testicles. Some kind of
testicles don't have liquid in them. They just have sperm. You get the liquid
in the
from
vas
the prostate.
deferens.
Yeah, if it joins.
Goes to the vas deferens. Okay, you know what I'm fucking saying. You're trying to give me a fucking lesson on something I already know about because I didn't say it specifically. Actually, it's not like it's just the sperm and the testicles.
I'm just surprised you went
to the nose. What about the nose?
I'm surprised you went to the testicles prior to going to the bladder.
Because I don't know.
Or the stomach.
I mean, I already talked about I did talk about the stomach.
Did you mention the stomach?
I said the colon.
That's not the stomach.
It's the same shit.
Oh, come on.
It's the same fucking
thing. I'm not going
thing.
to tease you about that. I'm not going to tease you about the testicles.
You don't make pee-pee jokes. You make jokes about other things.
Don't be saying the stomach and the colon is the same
all the
thing.
same shit. It's like the ear, nose, and throat doctor. It's all part of the same.
You mean the otolaryngologist?
Yes, it's all part of the same system. No, otolaryngologist sounds laryngatus. It sounds like laryngitis, which I mean must be something about your throat,
ear, nose,
your larynx,
and throat.
Yeah, but laryngatus doesn't mean ear and nose.
Otolaryngologist.
It means just throat.
How about this? Let's look it up.
I don't have any. And because larynx comes from the word lingua, which means tongue.
Otolaryngology is a medical specialty which is focused on the ears, nose, and throat. It is also called otolaryngology head and neck surgery because specialists are trained in both medicine and surgery.
None of that is an
otolaryngologist is often called an ear, nose, and throat doctor or an ENT.
That's highly
ENT is short for Star Trek Enterprise.
That's highly non-specific and it's not reliable.
Not only is this not non-specific, this is highly specific.
Highly specific.
It's very specific.
Haile Selassie?
It's like a specific ocean.
Haile Selassie ain't got nothing on highly specific.
Is it like the specific ocean?
Yep. I wanted to bring up also about the character of Uhura in general, not related to this episode, but something I remember saying at the beginning of the series. I made a comment that said Uhura was off-putting but ultimately likable, is what I said. And that's another comment that I wish to clarify, because I think the reason I said that, it was in part because I kind of relate to her in the sense that, like, the oversharing thing, sometimes I, have a hard time sort of navigating how much to share. So I either overshare or I don't share at all. It's hard for me to find that middle ground. Yeah. And so when she said...
We witness that every week on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And so, right. So I made a comment about like when she was with Spock on the planet, she was kind of like joking with him about like relationships or something and talking to a superior in this way that like, it comes from my experience in the past of being too jokey with somebody who's my boss, and I think I'm having fun, but then I realize later it's like, oh, I just pissed my boss off. And so that was about it. It hit a note for me because it reminded me of situations that I've been in and have. Yeah. But the nice thing is that this is the future. This is Spock, and Spock is reacting in the way that I think more managers and bosses and whatever you call them, superior officers or whatever, should act, which is not to like fucking try to put yourself on some higher plane. You know, as long as you know the person respects you ultimately and is going to listen to your orders and you trust them. So that's the basic thing. Is I wish we were able to have interactions that Uhura and Spock, for example, had on that episode. Was Ghosts of Illyria, wasn't it? I think that was Ghosts of Illyria when they went to the comet.
No, that was Children of the Comet.
I was Children of the Comet. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Anyway, point being is that I like that. I wish we could be more like that in the future, and people didn't have have sticks in their heinies so much about shit, you know.
Uhura is like the Tilly sort of character.
Well,
sort of like she's like the young cadet.
She's young,
finding her way,
or like maybe a little Harry Kim flavor.
I can see that
in this particular role, which you don't, that's not how she is later in TOS,
right?
But,
but I find myself sort of like have been relating to the situations Uhura's been in the sense of Star Trek. I sort of identify a little bit more with Uhura than I do Tilly, but that doesn't mean I like Tilly any less as a character. I think it's just the situations Uhura got in reminded me of situations that I got in, and so I was kind of I was projecting to a certain degree.
You were Dan-jecting.
I was Dan-jecting anyway.
Are you a hologram?
Hologram.
Because you were projecting?
More like smallogram.
All right. Any other odds and ends? Oh, Argelius or Argelius 2? There's a reference to Argelius 2.
Don't go there.
Is that how it's pronounced? Ortegas is talking to Chapel and referencing something that Chapel got involved with some person on Argelius 2.
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Some humorous little, one of those classic exchanges where it's like, ooh, we don't know the details, but we've heard just enough to get, it's interesting. That planet, if I recall correctly, and if the internet's correct, that was referenced in TOS's Wolf in the Fold, which is the episode where I think they're also like on shore leave, but Scotty is accused of murdering a bunch of women.
Bummer.
But it turns out it's somebody else. I'm not going to spoil who the real killer was, because I recall that being a pretty good episode of TOS. Wolf in the Fold.
I guess the last thing is Spock was talking about T'Pring, and he was like, I plan to spend most of my time here with my fiancée T'Pring, who has arranged to join me since our last visit was cut short by...
Dun, dun, dun.
And then he got cut short.
Well, because we saw it happen in the pilot, in the first episode, the pilot episode.
Saw what?
We saw that get cut short.
It was about to...
Spock and her...
was about to happen.
They were about to do the...
it was... coitus.
The Sailot with two backs.
Yeah, well, I was
Sailot with two backs. Is that the phrase?
Yes, that's exactly.
The Sailot they were going to do the Sailot with two backs.
No, I was
on Vulcan, and then Chris called. Captain Pike called and was like, "I'm so sorry to bother." He was like, "Spock, are you naked?"
Well, I was just saying that his sentence was cut short, so it was kind of like he was talking.
Oh, you were making a much more interesting observation than I just did.
Just that, yeah, it was like it was cut short by, and
cadence of the line mimicked the event that it was describing.
Yeah.
Very good, sir. That's a fascinating observation.
At the beginning, they said Stardate 234 Pon Far.
Okay. By the way, people online have been following and tracking the Stardates.
234 Pon Far.
More like 234 Pon Far.
Yeah. Actually, it was 14, not Pon Far.
Yes.
Okay. People have been tracking it. Okay, go.
People have been tracking the Stardates, and more, I'm convinced that
they're doing it on purpose.
That the gag on this show is that the Stardates don't make any sense because they're jumping around. There's like Stardate 3 ones, there's 2s, there's 1s, starts with 1. The writers have to be doing this as an in joke because that's what happened on TOS. It never made fucking sense whatsoever. And that's great. I hope that's what they're doing because I think it's fucking hilarious. Subtly hilarious.
Stardate.
Subtle.
What a bunch of nonsense.
It's subtle. Stardates.
So what are you talking about, star dates?
He's talking
That's
something
some
about
kind of like astrological
Nurse
shit.
Chapel goes on star dates.
Oh yeah, she does. Nurse Chapel.
Right, with Lieutenant Red Shirts.
I was talking about how she like looked kind of surreal. I think it's her outfit they give her when she's in nurse form. The outfit they have her in and the way her hair stands still with the white outfit. It's like it makes her look like this surreal. But then when she was in plain clothes, she looked, just like a person.
She looked normal.
She looked like a person.
She looked like a regular old human being.
Yeah, there was something about her hair like is like defies gravity. It's all like out kind of. But then she had her hair in different styles.
Right.
When she was on the shore leave planet.
She's got different styles for Miles.
I'm not sure. Did they ever say what planet that was? It just seemed like a planet where everybody was kind of hanging out.
I think it must have been like Earth or maybe or near. They said it was Starbase 1.
Oh, it was a Starbase.
Yeah, it was Starbase 1 and they had they were all in those habitats.
Yeah,
and we've seen those before
yeah.
and
that's some old school.
Yeah, and there was some stuff in Discovery with them. I think it was fucked up during the war. I can't remember if it's placed next to Earth or not. I honestly don't recall at this stage.
It might as well be.
Your boy's tired.
Earth Schmirth.
Pring works for the Vulcan's Kashtanktil service. El Kashtanktil. That's the name of the Vulcan. That's the name of the Vulcan Emotion Police, or would they be the Logic Police or the Emotion Police?
Yeah,
I don't know
right,
which way you go with
exactly,
that.
Yeah, that sort of nomenclature is always complicated.
El Kashtanktil.
Okay, well, I think that we probably covered most of the things we were planning on covering this week. I think
Apple
so.
Podcast.
Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. All right. So.
Vatash Couture refers to Vulcans without logic. That's what that is. Okay.
But Vatash Couture.
Kawamala.
So that was that. It's been Star Trek. Is that what we're saying? It's been
Star Trek.
It totally was Star Trek.
It was totally some Star Trek.
It's being Star Trek.
We had some Star Trek.
I'm gonna make it a point. I'm gonna make it a point to not say duty anymore. I'm gonna say duty when I'm talking about duty. Like when you're on duty right now. So you know when I'm saying you smell like duty.
You're going to pronounce the T properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're also
Instead
sort
of
of
like
calling
a lazy
attention to it,
American.
and you're putting the image of duty or duty into my mind.
Yeah, and now
That's
you're
like
gonna think
duty.
now you're gonna even think of duty even more when I say duty because I made a point of it. Now you're gonna associate them even more.
It's just I'm cool with it. I'm cool because we're childish. We're childish people.
Oh, you're saying I shouldn't talk about duty on the podcast?
No, I'm saying because we are childish people.
But it's important to do your duty.
Well, right. It is important
and
to do your duty.
And giggle when somebody says that.
Right, it is. But
we're pretty old folks at this stage.
But I want to.
We've gone around the sun many times, but we can still appreciate a good old.
I want to see.
Poopy joke.
I want to refer to someone's duty without laughing. You know what I'm saying? Duty.
But laughter.
Like that's
laughter
an order.
cures so many things.
It's so immature.
Laughter is such a good thing.
It's
to
so
bring into the
immature
world.
to be like he was on duty that day. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
It's like in Gary Shandling show. Gary Shandling told the joke of why do policemen smell? Because they're always on duty.
Yeah.
That was Gary Shandling.
Yeah. That was a good joke.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Gary Shambling. That would be a good parody character. Gary Shambling, where he's like shambling.
Oh yeah,
He's like
shambling.
shambling around. You could do that joke like 10 times. It would still be funny. All right. Okay.
Only we make the rules. Bingo. Exactly.
Yes. It was another good line. Yeah. Well-written episode. Okay. This episode was great. Next episode, who knows? We don't know what it is.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. That's the end of knowing the names of the episode.
Star Trek Amok.
I haven't seen a preview for the next one yet.
By this time last week, we already knew that it was Spock and Pike this week.
So it'll be whatever it is.
Mock talk.
Halfway through the first season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's going well, super strong, super coherent. It's clear, it's confident, it's good. It's good. Why are you looking at me like that, Dan?
I was thinking about.
You're just staring at me.
I was totally
some late night beady eyes.
I was thinking about the number one dad shirt, the T-shirt.
Oh yeah. The
Master
Kara
Pro,
mentioned.
Master Pro Dad.
Yeah.
The number one dad shirt.
The number one dad.
Yeah,
that was
great.
That was great.
Great that they have a shirt that says "Number One Dad."
You're my number
He's
one
my
dad.
number one dad. And they have a shirt.
Yeah. All right. So this is the podcast. You've listened this far. You could do us the favor of following us on Twitter or Instagram or whatever at It's Got Star Trek. We're on Facebook. Our website is www.itsgotstartrek.com.
equals QMZW / upside down T.
We fixed that. It's no longer necessary.
That's voodoo.
We're on YouTube. A lot of people listen to the podcast on YouTube.
You listen on YouTube.
Somewhat baffling, but you
YouTube.
can put it on your TV, and it's easy to favorite. Which is please, if you're watching on YouTube, that's great.
TV or TV?
The television.
Who says TV?
In German, it's Fernsehen.
I say TV. No one says TV.
TV. I say TV.
Fernsehen.
TV.
I'm a fan of them too.
All right. So yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher, and all that junk. You can rate and review. Right. That's what we're supposed to say.
Rate and review.
Rate and review.
Hit that subscribe button.
Hit the subscribe button.
Hit that fucking subscribe button.
Subscribe in all the services. Button. You know, tell your friends and your neighbors. And next week, we don't know what the episode's called, but we'll
do it.
We need to prove to the world that we're worthwhile people.
With luck, we'll enjoy it. And with luck, you'll enjoy it. And we won't have too much to complain about. We'll have all sorts of great things to talk about. Keep talking about Star Trek. That's what we're going to do.
Why are you saying that all
weird?
That's what we're going to do.
We're back together.
Yo, what's that? Wispy? What's that? Wispy when you say things all whispery and sexy? Is it wispy?
Cool whip.
No, when you're like, cool.
Hey, Jesse, you're so cool.
That's what you do.
Hey,
this is the point. See, they're not listening to this part now.
Dilly down.
And they're not going to hear the clever clip at the end.
Clever clip.
You always put a clever clip at the end.
Don't cut the clever clip.
A lot of people
this
are
is
like,
the clever clip.
Like, they finished with all their insightful points. Oh, it's all finished. I'm going to skip to the next podcast now.
Quick, don't cut to the clever clip.
Before the clever clip, there's a clever quip.
Don't cut the clever clip.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Maybe.
Ensign Zia and Christina, we've heard your explanations.
Enterprise Bingo signing the Scorch.
You can't overlook the fact that both of you acted in a very irresponsible manner.
Very.
Your shore leave is revoked. You'll spend the next 2 days assigned to Chief Kyle.
No, not Chief Kyle. He's so mean.